Let me tell you something kind of surprising. You ever notice how some of the most important inventions in history, stuff that literally changed the way the world works, come with stories that are just as wild as any thriller or mystery novel? I mean, we grow up hearing about the light bulb, the airplane, the telephone, but what about the people behind those inventions? Sometimes their personal stories are even more fascinating than the gadgets they created. And today, I want to take you on a little journey into one of those stories. A story that's got everything: genius, ambition, a world changing invention, and then, out of nowhere, a disappearance so strange it still baffles people more than 100 years later. So, picture this. It's the early 1900s. The world is buzzing with new ideas. Factories are popping up everywhere. Steam engines are chugging along. And people are dreaming up all sorts of ways to make life faster, easier, and let's be honest, a little bit cooler. In the middle of all this, there's this German engineer named Rudolf Diesel. Now, you might recognize that last name. Yeah, as in diesel, engine. But I bet you don't know the whole story behind it. Before I dive in, quick thing. If you're into stories like this, where history meets mystery and a little bit of a, wait, what actually happened there? You might want to hit that subscribe button. I'm always digging up these kinds of tales, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. No pressure, just a friendly nudge. All right, back to our story. So, Rudolf Diesel, this guy was a real thinker. Not like a tinkerer in a dusty workshop, but someone who wanted to solve big problems. See, back then, steam engines were the kings of industry. They powered trains, ships, factories, you name it. But steam engines were kind of a pain. They were heavy, they wasted a ton of energy, and they needed a constant supply of water and coal. If you ever watched an old movie with a steam locomotive, you know the drill: clouds of smoke, so whether you guys shoveling coal, lots of noise. Diesel looked at all that and thought, there's got to be a better way. He wanted to build an engine that was more efficient, more reliable, and honestly, just smarter. Something that wouldn't break down every other day or need a team of people just to keep it running. And after years of experimenting, failing, tweaking, and trying again, he came up with what would become the diesel engine. Now, what made Diesel's engine so special? Well, for starters, it was tough. Like really tough.
The kind of machine you could run day and night in all kinds of weather, and it would just keep chugging along. It didn't need fancy fuel either. In fact, Diesel designed it so it could run on all sorts of stuff, even vegetable oil. That's right, the original diesel engine could run on peanut oil. Imagine telling that to someone at a gas station today. But here's the thing, Diesel's invention wasn't just about making engines better. It was about changing the game. His engine was so efficient and so versatile that it threatened to upend entire industries. Suddenly, you didn't need to rely on coal or steam. You could build ships, trains, and factories that ran longer, cheaper, and with less hassle. It was a big deal, a really big deal. And as you can probably guess, not everyone was thrilled about this. Imagine you're running a coal company or you've got a huge investment in steam technology. This new engine comes along and suddenly your business model is looking a little shaky. People started paying attention, and not always in a friendly way. But Diesel, for his part, was on top of the world. His engine was getting attention all over Europe. Factories wanted it, ships wanted it. Even the military was interested, especially as tensions in Europe were starting to heat up. The German Navy, for example, saw the potential for using diesel engines in submarines. They were quieter, more efficient, and could stay underwater longer. In a world that was inching closer to World War I, that was a serious advantage. So here's where things get really interesting. In September of 1913, Diesel boards a ship called the SS Dresden in Antwerp, Belgium. He's heading to London for a business meeting. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? He has dinner on board, chats with a few people, and then says, "Good night," heading to his cabin. The next morning, he's gone. Just poof, vanished. His bed hasn't been slept in, his night clothes are laid out, and his personal stuff is still in the room. The only thing missing is Diesel himself. Now imagine being on that ship. One of the most famous inventors in Europe just disappears overnight. The crew searches the ship, but there's no sign of him. A few days later, they find his hat and overcoat neatly folded under the railing on the deck. It's like something out of a detective novel. And then, about 10 days after he disappeared, a Dutch boat finds a body floating in the North Sea. The body's too decomposed to identify, but they do find some personal items, things that Diesel's son later confirms belonged to his father.
The body is buried at sea, and just like that, Rudolf Diesel is gone. But the questions, they're just getting started. Right away, people start speculating. Was it suicide? That's what the official story says. Diesel had been struggling financially, and he'd left his wife a bag with cash and documents, along with instructions not to open it until a certain date. There was even a cross marked in his diary on the day he vanished, which some people took as a sign he'd planned to end his life. But here's the thing, none of it quite adds up. Diesel was on his way to a big business meeting. He was about to make deals that could have turned things around for him. And then there's the way he disappeared. No note, no warning, just gone. People who knew him said he wasn't the type to give up easily. He'd faced setbacks before and always bounced back. So if it wasn't suicide, what else could it have been? Well, that's where the story gets even juicier. Some people think Diesel was murdered. Remember, his engine was a game changer, especially for the military. Germany was on the brink of war, and they didn't want that technology falling into the hands of rival countries. Maybe someone decided Diesel was too much of a risk, a loose end that needed tying up. Others point the finger at big business, the oil companies, the coal barons, the people who stood to lose the most if diesel engines took over. Maybe they had a hand in his disappearance. After all, when you're talking about billions of dollars and the future of entire industries, people can get pretty ruthless. And then there's the wildest theory of all, that Diesel faked his own death. Maybe he wanted to escape his debts, start a new life somewhere else, leave all the pressure behind. There were even rumors that he'd been spotted in Canada, living under a different name. No one ever proved it, but the idea stuck around for years. So what really happened to Rudolf Diesel? Honestly, nobody knows for sure. And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about an engine or an inventor. It's about the way big ideas can shake up the world, and how sometimes the people behind those ideas end up in the crosshairs of history. But let's not lose sight of what Diesel actually accomplished. His engine changed everything. Think about it. Today, diesel engines power trucks, trains, ships, pretty much anything that needs to move a lot of stuff over a long distance. They're the backbone of global trade. Without diesel engines, the world would look completely different.
Your Amazon packages, your groceries, the gas that gets delivered to your local station, it all depends on diesel power. And yet, the guy who made it all possible just vanished. No closure, no answers, just a mystery that's still unsolved more than a century later. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that kind of thing fascinating. It's like the universe reminding us that behind every big breakthrough, there's a human story full of twists, turns, and sometimes unanswered questions. It makes you wonder how many other stories are out there, just waiting to be discovered. Let's pause for a second. If you're still with me and you're enjoying this kind of deep dive into history's weirdest corners, you might want to stick around. I'm always on the lookout for stories that make you go, wait, what? So yeah, subscribing is a good way to make sure you don't miss the next one. All right, back to Diesel. One thing that really stands out about his story is how much it reflects the world he lived in. The early 1900s were a time of massive change. Technology was moving faster than ever, and people were both excited and scared by what it all meant. There was this sense that anything was possible, but also that the old ways of doing things were under threat. Diesel himself was a product of that era. He was ambitious, yes, but also idealistic. He believed his engine could make the world a better place, not just for businesses, but for ordinary people. He wanted to create something that was accessible, reliable, and, in a way, democratic. An engine that didn't just serve the rich or the powerful, but could help anyone who needed to get things done. And yet that same ambition may have been what put him in danger.
When you create something that powerful, you're bound to attract attention, from friends and enemies alike. It's a reminder that innovation isn't just about having a good idea. It's about navigating the world around you, with all its politics, rivalries, and sometimes dangers. I keep coming back to that night on the SS Dresden. Imagine Diesel, alone in his cabin, maybe thinking about the future, his own and the world's. Did he know what was coming? Was he worried about the deals he was about to make, or the enemies he might have made along the way? Or was he just tired, ready to leave it all behind? We'll probably never know, but maybe that's okay. Maybe the mystery is part of what keeps his story alive. It forces us to look beyond the headlines and the history books to ask bigger questions about how the world works and who gets to shape it.
And if you think about it, that's kind of the point of stories like this. They remind us that history isn't just a list of dates and inventions. It's a living, breathing thing, full of people who dreamed big, took risks, and sometimes paid a heavy price. So next time you see a diesel truck rumbling down the highway, or you hear about some new technology that's gonna change everything, remember Rudolf Diesel. Remember the guy who built an unbreakable engine and then disappeared without a trace. His story's a reminder that behind every great invention, there's a human being with hopes, fears, and a story all their own. And who knows, maybe someday someone will finally figure out what happened to him. Until then, we've got the mystery and the engine that changed the world. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you've got thoughts, theories, or just want to share your favorite historical mystery, drop a comment. I'd like to hear what you think. And hey, if you're not already subscribed, now's a good time to join the crew. There's plenty more where this came from. See you in the next one.